It's Monday the 1st of August, 2022. This evening's first reaction show of the season. The panel will be reacting to Blackpool just about beating Paul Ince's Reading to record our first win of the season in our first game. We'll also be giving our thoughts on Matt Scrafton's interview with Sam Sadler and Ben Mansford as the Pool Supremos hit back at some fans' accusations that we're going into this season undercooked. I'm John Aspinall. This is T-Side's podcast match reaction show. Blackpool 1, Reading 0. Welcome back, everybody, to the Seasiders podcast. Apologies for the delay. Someone was messing about with the mic, technical issues, but I'll let him off. He's looking very red and stressed after playing in the heat of the kitchen at KFC Filed at the over 50s walking football. Is that right, Tim?
It certainly is, although it wasn't very sunny. It was chucking it down, to be polite. So we had a rather bit unfortunate yesterday. We got finished runners up in the league, which was good, but not, we'd have liked to have won it. But so I got a bit red yesterday because the sun came out in Bolton and nobody taking his sun cream. So
you don't tend to take the two words sun cream and Bolton.
Yeah,
don't marry up naturally.
In the shadow of the Pennines and the Satanic Mills, you don't expect sunshine, do you?
So
Personally, I refuse to believe that Tim is over 50. Doesn't look it at all.
They say flattery gets you everywhere. If you're ever in need of legal representation, Connor, I think you might get a deal. Just don't do it if you're getting libelled against anyone.
He's on FOC for that.
Explain, Tim.
Free of charge.
Free of charge. Okay. Is that worthy of a Timism? No, I don't think so. So just apologise for the audio quality a bit tonight. We're just having a struggle with Tim's mic. So Tim, if you can just mute yourself every now and then. I can hear a lot of hissing. There we go. It's back. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for coming on.
Most welcome.
What's that shirt you've got on?
Ironically, as we're discussing the transfer hit back from Ben Mansford and Simon Sadler, it's the protest shirt. it's a very old protest shirt from it's an old protest shirt that was made during the Oyston regime.
Is it? Just make you big, Tom. Just make you big, Tom. I don't remember this one.
Yeah. So it was an alternative shirt that was made. I think he done it for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then just bought a few of them during the time where we couldn't buy shirts, basically, and still fits me miraculously. Don't know how, but
right. So let's get on with the show. I think I'll get you off. I'm just learning this new software. Can Mansford sign Tim for right back? Says Matthew Warrender. What do you think, Tim?
The way I played tonight, I would leave me left back in the changing room.
No, I'm not having that for a minute. Just on the subject of KFC Filed, I had my son's birthday party at their gaff yesterday in one of their function rooms. What a farce! It was an absolute disaster, almost in the function room. I was like basically left to do everything. I had to pay like top dollar for it. Member of staff didn't turn up.
Why didn't you go to BFC? I saw you were at BFC afterwards, weren't you?
No, for the kids' party. I don't think they do them. I would have gone to BFC if they did them.
I thought I saw you in the corner flag.
Yeah. I went to Corner Flag on Saturday. So we had a two-course meal in the Corner Flag before the game. That was okay. You can't drink in there anymore. It's just for eating.
You can't drink alcohol in the corner.
Well, you can, but you can't just go in there and drink.
Oh, I see. You can't just go in for a drink. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have a sit-down meal. Anyway, we don't want to talk inanely about food on this show. Let's move on to the football. Just I think before we kick off, shall we big up the Lionesses for their victory in the Euros yesterday?
Absolutely.
Sensational.
I'm actually, I listen. I'm not old school about it, but I've never really enjoyed watching the women's game. But I think I watched the quarterfinals against Spain, last 20 minutes, an extra time, and I've got to say I've really enjoyed the way that England have actually played. I think they played some good football, and it's been quite good to watch. I think, to be fair,
Jesus, what's that?
not me. Somebody's
No,
stomach.
I don't. Let me.
Boy races outside Tom's window.
It's yeah. I'm quite next to the A12, so
God, right.
I shall shut my window.
In contrast to Tim, I really enjoyed all the shithousery of the women's football match. Like, for me, it's just like Jill Scott turning around and yelling at people, "Fuck off, you fucking prick." You know, seeing the game out with a series of cynical trips to the corner. Like, it was just scrappy and violent at times, and saw it out, and I'm like, I don't know. So often I think in the quest for acceptance, etc., or because of the way it's covered, I think a lot of time the women's game is portrayed as like a bit nice and a bit cuddly and a bit more family friendly. And kind of people tut at supporters if they boo players, etc., because it's meant to be like the better, nicer type of football. And I actually really just enjoyed a final that was lots of booing, lots of shithousery, like you'd have at any other football game in the land. Like, for me, in addition to the record-breaking crowds and, clear spotting the heart of the nation that it's earned, I felt like that, just shithousery was a sign of equality as well, if nothing else.
Is she their version of Peter Crouch? He's got a similar kind of gangly build. Jill, what's her name?
Jill Scott.
Jill Scott. The German player soon turned around and backed off when she said that. I don't know if anyone noticed.
I think I would have, to be honest with you. She was
you could kind of snap her though, couldn't you? Like Peter Crouch almost.
I wouldn't want to try.
The other thing I would have to say, it was great. Apparently, in the German newspapers today, they were whinging like Billy about the VAR decisions, which is great, isn't it? Because how many times have that lot had us over in the men's game? And it's quite nice to have them bleating for a change rather than it being us.
I did enjoy seeing their players crying, actually, at the end. That makes a nice change, doesn't it, to see bereft Germans crying upset on the pitch at Wembley. So, yeah.
To be fair, they were crying last time and beat them as well, weren't they, to be fair? So the men's team as well.
It's a shame that wasn't in the final, though, wasn't it? They made it a bit sweeter.
I mean, I really enjoyed, first of all, the BBC's clear attempts to try and drag players for interviews when the players just did not want to be interviewed. Like Chloe Kelly doing 5 seconds of an interview and then running off to go and celebrate with some fans. Like, just watching all the joy in the celebrations was just brilliant. Just like Leah Williamson just absolutely yelling in her post-match interviews for no reason. Brilliant.
I've just noticed as well today, I don't know if this is a coincidence, the Community Trust has been successful in its licence to have an FA Girls Emerging Talent Centre for the 22-23 season. Sounds like another initiative, and the Community Trust does some fantastic work, and that's good to see as well.
Yeah.
Right, also, we've got the Sadler and Mansford interview that Matt Scrafton's done. Shall we put that on ice or address it now?
I think it's the latest news, so we might as well address it first.
Tim, let's come to your considered thoughts. What stuck out to you on what you've read? Look, it's very hard reading articles on the Gazette website. Why, if they're listening, do a Patreon. I'd pay to read with all that crap on.
Yeah, I think, Mike, the 2 or 3 things that I take out of it. One, I think it seems to be a reaction to ABFTT yet again, and you don't get you're looking through a prism when you read ABFTT, and I think the concern I have with one is I think there's a perception that the gobshites on ABFTT speak for the rest of us, which they don't necessarily do. The second thing I would say is I wish there was more. If there was going to be this type of transparency, that it was done a little bit earlier rather than it being reactionary. I'd rather it be proactive. You know, we've got Tangerine TV, we've got the Gazette, we've got Lancashire Live, we've even got the podcast if they want to use it. But you know, it would be nice to hear these things.
We did reach out to them as well, didn't we? We did reach out to them via the SLO.
I'm not necessarily the podcast. I throw us in because we are an option, but I think they've got their own media that they can more easily use. But I sometimes wish it's like the thing with listen. I'm not having a pop at the muckers, but the only fans group who's heard anything about Michael Appleton's strategy is the MSG, which is a reaction to them bleating about us signing him as manager in the first place. And I just wish it was a bit more. We do so many things that are good, but I think the communication from the club could be immeasurably better. I think Cameron Brannigan was a reaction to the bleating that we didn't get Ellis Sims. I just wish we wouldn't react. I just wish we hear it. You know, whatever they want us to hear, we hear it up front rather than when people start bleating.
That's part of the problem, though, isn't it? You're only hearing it because they don't want to tell you that beforehand, do they? So it's a reaction, if that makes sense. Like, they're not going to tell us previously if no one moans, they're not going to come out and say all the things they said today. I agree with you. I think they should, be much more upfront with these things with the fans. But because the whole thing just stinks a little bit, in my opinion. Like, they just kind of said, you don't know what it's like. You don't know where we were. Basically, it's a reaction to the fans, of course. It tells us where they're at, of course, but they've just told us that we are going to keep trying to sign players. We are going to do this. We are going to do that. We are competing. Well, we're not competing because we haven't signed any of the targets that we want to sign. We've got 4 weeks to go. We are undercooked. We are growing off the pitch, but it's a substantial investment off the pitch and not enough on the pitch. And I think even the next 6 weeks or so, we'll come to see that, regardless of the win on Saturday, that we will be struggling in 7 to 10 games' time. That isn't me calling Appleton out or anything like that at all. I think his strategy is very good. I just don't think he's going to be given the tools to do the job.
I think what Tim, I'll bring you in next, Connor. I think I agree with what Tim said, and the fact that there's a complete lack of communication, not a complete lack of, but I think the communication could be better. I think these fans forums are a bit timid and what people can and can't say. And I think if there was more of an open forum and an open flow of information and communication between like fans like every fan, not just someone who dishes out a load of abuse to Michael Appleton and then you get an audience with him. I thought that was a bit weird, like Tim said. I think if there was more communication going on between all the fans groups, the club, the board of directors, I think these things kind of wouldn't happen. But yeah, I think we all are on the same side, and that's what's annoying. We don't want to be nitpicking for nitpicking's sake. And I think it's just a few bumps that can be ironed out and everything will be okie dokie. But me personally, I agree with like 95% of what was said in that article, and I do think we do need to take a bit of a step back and realise how far the club has come in the last 3 years, which is great for Simon Sadler, and I fully appreciate what he's done. Connor, your thoughts on what was said?
Yeah, I think I'm well down, well pegged now as being part of Team Sadler. I fully back the owner, and I think the progress over the last 3 years has been incredible. I think, has it been a quieter window than I would have liked? Yes. Are there plenty of good reasons why that would be the case, considering we had a new manager? Yes. I think also we're probably not giving enough credit because we have this recency bias. I don't think we're giving enough credit to the work done last summer or kind of 2 summers ago, putting a lot of players, really good players who have turned out to be very important to us, onto long-term contracts, which would never have happened under the last set of owners. I really got the kind of tone of the press release itself, and I guess the kind of style, article, not press release, Freudian slip there. I just didn't quite get the tone, like Tim and Tom said. It just felt weirdly defensive and weirdly reactive. Like there was a great bit buried in there around kind of how we can all get behind Blackpool. We can get a £10 junior Seasiders membership for kind of the young fans. You know, get a shirt if you're a business. Can you get a box, etc. You know, there's all ways we can get behind the club. And if you want that to be your message, if you want it to be a positive message of getting behind the club, things are difficult on a low budget, get behind the club, make that message. But instead, it just got hidden behind what felt to me to kind of like very defensive messaging around actually we're doing okay, we're doing great, we're making loads of progress. And then finally, I kind of think, and this is my view, like, I'm going to judge the club at the end of the season, whether we've stayed up, we've gone down. I don't really care much about what's happening now. It's just noise. And personally, I think if you're the owner and CEO of Blackpool Football Club, that's all you should care about as well. Like if you're so certain you're doing such a great job and you're so certain you're getting it right and you believe that to the fullest extent, what does it matter that like people on Twitter or people on the forums are saying? Like you're the CEO of a football club, you're the owner of a football club, your investment, you know, you're successful businessmen and investors in your own right. Just own it. Get on with it. You don't need to issue this article or defend yourselves to the fans. You just need to make good decisions. And like, as fans, we're not entitled to all that communication. As long as there is a well-run football club, which can only be judged over the long term, I just don't care. And I just don't understand why they seem to have caved and cared about this to the same extent as well.
I don't know if you mean like literally we're not entitled to this communication. I don't think we need it every week, but I do think there needs to be some maybe clearer indication throughout the time. When I don't know. When you say not entitled to it, we do support the club in many ways, and of course, I don't know. I like it when they come out and do things, but at the same time, like you just said, it's a weird article. Like I don't like the tone in the sense of they're telling us where we were, and we all get that we're growing, but I think a lot of the reaction is to the fact that we are missing out on targets which have been put in the public, but also on the flip side to that, the arrogancy of potentially Mansfield when he came out and kind of smirked and said we won't go ahead and not buy a player because of money. And then we're literally missing out on targets potentially, but with the Brannigan thing, he may never come, I don't know, but because of money or because we're not maybe making that risk on a player. I'm not saying spend 5-10 million on a player. I don't want to put us in that position where we're going to be bankrupt.
Yeah,
have got to be braver sometimes in these situations.
Lost.
Yeah, I get that.
So apologies. What I was going to add is because what we know about the Brannigan deal, and it was fantastic podcasting, by the way, listening back to that, which I did on Saturday, coming back from Chester.
That was heavily edited. I think
me
and myself and Sean were beavering away, editing that considerably. But I think we did a reasonable job.
It was fantastic to listen to as it panned out and developed. But what I would say about the Brannigan deal is that and I don't know whether this for certain, but it's not unusual for certain players at certain clubs to have provisions in the contract that says if somebody comes in on more money, that you get parity with them. And I don't know whether Blackpool is still doing that, but most certainly there was. I'm aware it happens, and I suppose the risk is, I don't think Blackpool are expecting Brannigan or Oxford to offer Brannigan a double your money to stay, and all of a sudden that means they've got to up the ante to a level that they're clearly not comfortable with, because it's going to have an impact on the overall budget, not just for Brannigan but also for the rest of the squad. So I can sort of follow where the club is on that, but I almost feel like our transfer strategy this summer has been reaction in the same way we've got a reactionary communication. I think a lot of the transfer strategy seems to be reactionary as well. Again, I think Brannigan, the going for Brannigan, the triggering him at the stage we've triggered, seems a reaction probably to the fact there was criticism floating around about the fact we've missed out on other deals, and a way to placate what was being said on social media. And I don't know whether that's right or not, but that's the perception I got. And I'm thinking, whether we change manager or not, we're meant to have this structure that isn't where we've got a head coach and the actual transfer strategy is elsewhere. Is being governed elsewhere, and so I can sort of understand why we pause a bit so that Appleton can look at what we've got, but it just seems a bit like we're throwing the darts at a dartboard with a blindfold on, and I just don't get it, and I just think it's reactionary. I think we're reactionary there, and we're reactionary with our communication, and I agree with Connor to a degree about it's up to the club to manage the level of communication that's coming out. But if you're going to do it proactively, not reaction. That's all I'm saying, because I actually agree with Tom. I think there should be a certain level of communication, but not in response to people bleating on ABFTT. It should be, we have these structured dialogue meetings, which I've never been to one, I've never been invited to one, but they are I get an impression of quite staged. That there's questions submitted beforehand, and if you want to engage with the fans, maybe you just get in front of them and not everybody, but a selection, and let people apply and hear what they've got to say and answer it and stream it. Maybe they should stream these structured dialogue meetings and everybody can listen to them. Why wouldn't you? It's just, I do find it a bit frustrating sometimes, because I think there's a few people who shout very loud, and everything seems to evolve from that rather than from where it should do, which is the club.
Yeah. Okay, that was our piece said on the communication with the club, unless anyone's got anything else.
I'd just like to give a shout out to, I can't remember if it's Cardiff, I think it's Birmingham, or the Birmingham City fans who don't even know who own their club. Like, there are genuinely championship clubs at the moment who don't really know who owns the club because the level of transparency is so poor. I completely agree with it. So I think as fans, we need to be aware that, a lot of the people running these clubs run them like businesses. I think Simon Sadler is still pouring money in, trying to run it to the business to the best of his extent. I think it's easy to feel entitled to stuff as a fan, but that might not always be the case. But I completely agree with Tim. If the club is going to communicate, it should do it proactively and own it, rather than this weird reactive defensive tone that they strike when they don't even need to communicate at all.
Yeah, maybe less said the better. I don't know, but if you read it, or if it's, if fans haven't read it yet, I just don't like the fact that they said, things like, did you realise we've signed players from like Man City and Liverpool? They are one of the two biggest clubs. Ben Woodburn came from Liverpool. Doesn't make them good players. The point.
Tyrese John Jules, Arsenal.
The Tyrese John Jules came from Arsenal. Like, don't sell us up the stream and say, we've done all this, we've done all that. We are the luckiest we've been for a very long time, and don't get me wrong, recency does come into it, as Connor said, but we can't not question new owners because we didn't question previous owners. We can't just let them go and do what they want to do. Like, at the end of the day, you are going to have critics, you are going to have opinions on things, and I just think the previous window with the whole Brannigan situation as well, there is a consistency with us not doing deals with the players that we want. And I think Appleton expects more from the window when he was potentially interviewed. I don't know, but we'll see come the end of the window. I'm not judging them now, but we haven't been planned at all. And that's the thing that pees me off the most. I think we knew when we were up, like Tim said, we have a head coach role and we have a recruitment team. That recruitment team has therefore failed to do its job, or to plan to do its job better, because we're now reacting and pressing the panic button and triggering causes that we can't even close a deal on. So I think we need to see what happens in the next few weeks before we make a full judgment on the side. But
apparently Connolly's now a right back.
Connolly's now right back according to it. They're telling us we're not as underprepared as we were at Forest. If that's the bar, then Jesus Christ, like, you can just use that as the bar for the future. We say, weren't as bad as football, the pitch isn't as bad because we had it under the oyster. It's really bumpy and really sandy. It's not like that now, so we should all be happy. It doesn't work like that. We are fans of a football club that we love, and it's our life. At the end of the day, if they don't see it that way, or Ben Mansfield certainly won't see it in the way the fans does if he doesn't support the club. I know he wants the best for it, but don't come out and be arrogant and borderline lie on Tangerine TV. Just be honest with us. Budget's not as big, budget's the same. We're going to really try and do business with players. Instead, we're now got to say we're never going to sign a player because suddenly there are 40,000 seats in their stadium.
Yeah, it was just a tad
just come on.
It was a bit condescending,
it's just ridiculous. Just come out when Critchley left and said, we've got a plan. We are going to keep the club secure, blah, 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 blah. Don't say we're not going to not go ahead with a player because of money, because the budget's... But it's just a load of crap, because it just comes to the end of it and you've lied, because we can't close a deal and we haven't got the money to spend on those players. Be truthful from the start, and then the fans will be consistently at a level where they're on side with the board. Don't then go and change in this interview and say we haven't got the money or the budget to do these things.
Okay, well, let's open this out to the comments. Listeners, viewers, what did you think of what you read today? Let's have a quick one from Phil Holmes. Surely Sam Sadler was proactive when he did his thing about prioritising the training ground and East Stand. Anyone want to address that?
Yeah, but we're talking about communication. The club are doing some fantastic stuff. I went in the north on Saturday, and there's now which we wanted to do 3 years ago. Obviously, it got carboshed at the time, but it's back up. There's a bit of a fan zone there now where people can go and have a beer and a smoke, which is great to see because it alleviates the pressure on the north bars and refreshment counters. So there's stuff going on. I know we had a little bit of a dig at the Moretti Lounge, but the Moretti Lounge will again gives another option, just as the Heineken one does.
Get a free pint. You should get a free pint for a tenner. Possibly. But
if you sign up for the season, it's only about £6.50. So I suppose it's which way you look at it. All I'm saying is they are doing some good stuff. There's stuff going to be going on with the at the East. We're not criticising the club over everything they're doing. What we're saying is the communication is reactionary. That was the criticism, and that's the criticism that we were talking about. Not everything else. We are very, very fortunate to have the owner we've got. But I just want to see us. But I think it was, I can't remember, it was John O'Connor used the word "own the communication," and that's what I want to see the football club do: own it, not We know who bleats the loudest on ABFTT, and there is far too much reaction to that, and it's got to stop. It's unnecessary.
Yeah. From Dave Whiteside, let's get you off, Tim. Did I read it right that he wanted some outside investment? Is that worrying, or just the way football is done now? ?
Yeah,
I didn't read it that way.
Yeah, well, it said the club needs capital investments. I think it's alluding to the fact that we potentially need to sell to buy players, potentially to make a profit, and then buy again. But it also, sorry, Connor. Also, I read it immediately as they need some additional investment. But I think they're talking about the players need to be sold, i.e., Bola, if we're going to invest into the players again and run it the way that it should be done, which make a profit. Make a profit again. So I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think Sean's got it right in the comments here. Capital investment kind of is normally investment that is not in your business as usual. So, for example, the UK government has very strong spending rules, or is meant to have strong spending rules, which limits, the percentage of spending on day-to-day stuff, but those limits don't apply to building roads, building hospitals, building infrastructure, all that kind of long-term, hard-to-deliver stuff that really puts you forward as a nation. When I read capital investment, I think about stuff around the training ground, like the East Stand, getting facilities up to scratch, all that kind of big stuff, which will take away from the playing budget to an extent. I don't think it's unfair to say that Blackpool is a championship club with training facilities that are League Two at best, potentially even worse. That is probably the biggest long-term need of the football club. It's the only way you're going to get, Cat 2, maybe even a Cat 1 eventually academy, which is the only way you're going to get young players through and move to that kind of sustainable model you need.
It's interesting as well, when going back to one of the previous pods, when I said attended the player of the season awards, Hubby said that the Blackpool lost so many players down to the lack of decent facilities, because at the end of the day, it's the guy's workplace, isn't it? And if you've got a choice between going somewhere where you've got all the equipment and all the support that you need to make yourself the best you can be, and you've got basically got same or similar offer from another club where you're going to be working out of a broom cupboard, then you're going to go to the one with a nice shiny office and the big Apple screens, and that gives you the vibe that you're actually doing you've got all the tools you need to do your job. So and sometimes it's down to things like that make decisions for players. It's not always all about whether you're offering an extra £500 or £5,000, in some cases £5,000 a week extra, whatever it is. It's down to playing time, working environment, whether you think you're going to play and whether you think you're going to improve as a footballer. So massively, always been the case that we needed to address that issue. And it's fantastic that Simon is in a financial position, hopefully, to deliver that. And that will be the if nothing else, a huge legacy from his perspective in relation to his investments in Blackpool.
When Ollie Turton went to Huddersfield, he started talking about how much more professional the facilities were, etc., how much more they had over Blackpool.
They've got a nutritionist, Connor.
Well, got a nutritionist. What a great environment it's been. And I'm sorry, but if Ollie Turton, of all people, is mouthing off about how the facilities need to be better, that really tells you something. That tells you something about the need. That even Ollie Turton is having a dig, a player of that quality. It's a joke.
I don't like your sarcastic tone there, Connor. He was a good player, was Ollie Turton. Anyway, just to lighten the mood before we move on to the game, Dan BFC's just said maybe we need Barry Fry instead of Mansford to try and make Squires Gate sound like the Ritz. I love Barry Fry, mate. That famous interview when he's negotiating with that player that does the rounds. You're not going to get that. Right. Should we move on to Reading? We've lost Tom a bit. I think he's just sorting out his connection. We'll put that to bed anyway, and let's move on. Let's move on to Reading at home, which is 1-0. Gents, if you look at the screen there, this is the new style of design for the player lineups from the official club account. Do you ever get the feeling that the graphic design has kind of fallen out of love with his craft here? Two-tone, tangerine and white, and that's it.
I quite like this. It's
do you like the minimalism, do you?
I like the minimalism. It's very clean. I like how they've done the Reading logo. That is black, or it's tangerine and white rather than full colour, so it just sits there nicely. And most importantly, I like that they haven't ordered it by kit number. They've ordered it by position.
Oh, yeah.
It just makes it so much easier to read and navigate and understand. The only way they could do it better is by sticking the formation on there, like what Watford have in their team announcement today. So,
or indeed like the Seasiders podcast does.
Exactly.
By our patented team picker. If any other fan podcast streams would be interested in purchase a license, drop a message in the comments and we'll thrash out a deal. Just to compare and contrast, that was Reading's beautiful piece of artwork there, and they've even got the hipster arm global warming temperatures gauge on the left hand side as well.
Consistency.
There's that fella there, Mr. Ince. Anyway, let's just go back to our lineup and discuss what we thought of it, which was Grimshaw, Connolly, Ekpiteta, Reece Williams making his debut, Dom Thompson, another debutant, Matty Virtue, Lewis Freeney, another debutant, Sonny Carey, Josh Bowler, Joey Yates, and Gary Medine. Anyone have any initial thoughts, worries when they saw that?
I think the slight surprise was Keshi, wasn't it? Which I don't think, did anybody know prior to about 1 o'clock that Keshi was on crutches? I know it got announced in our patron chat, didn't it? But
the official word is done his MCL, whatever that is.
He's out for 2 months, isn't he? But so I think I was most certainly expecting to see Keshi start. So I think when I click on and check the team sheet, your immediate thoughts are, where's Keshi? And obviously you can see Yates has come in and I presume he's going to play out left.
Has everyone heard the rumours of how he got injured?
Yeah, apparently Medine fell on him. Genuinely.
That's the way you want to get injured, isn't it? Big guys falling on you. That's what happens when you mess with big guys. Sorry, Tim, go on.
Yeah, so that was the one. That was one, and also I was slightly perturbed by the fact that Matty Virtue got the nod ahead of Dougal.
Here we go.
Dennis, right on cue, Dennis.
Right on cue. There we go. No, he wasn't, Dennis. No, he wasn't.
I think the only thing is, like, other than Keshi being out, I think it actually shows either Appleton sent a message to say, buy me a piss and winger, or he doesn't like Hamilton or Dale. I wouldn't know why, but he wanted to start, obviously, Yates there instead as a wide winger. As a winger instead of the natural wingers we've got there. So he obviously either likes Yates for his ability on the ball, or he doesn't like the options he's got in that position. And for me, I was probably 50-50 whether Dougal was going to start, but we'll come on to whether we think that was the right decision or not in the end. But good to see Dom Thompson start over Garbutt as well. Good to see that trust early doors.
Okay, on to the game then. Connor, Blackpool started very brightly in this game, and it kind of wasn't a surprise to see us go 1-0 up with what can only be described as a thunder bastard from the former lower league, League One, lower league donkey, formerly known. Someone might have called him that, Callum Connolly.
Well, I think it was a great team goal. You know, I think you had Matty Virtue kind of come up into that left half space, almost acting a little bit like a winger. Play what was actually a really good cross in, and also the only thing I can really remember Matty Virtue doing that game. But it was a beautiful cross in that Bowler hit straight at the keeper, but with a lot of power. Keeper naturally spills it, and then Callum Connolly playing in, you know, that position of right back somehow beats 2 or 3 Reading players to the ball, even though they're all closer to it, and powers it straight past the keeper at a narrow angle. Like, it was just an absolutely brilliant finish from a player where I didn't expect it. Maybe that's just my expectations of Callum Connolly are wrong. I seem to remember him scoring a really good free kick at some point last season. That I was very surprised. He
scored the last goal of last season and the first goal of this season. So
yeah, like maybe he's just got more finishing ability than I give him credit for.
He does enjoy a strike, but I think it's just. Sorry.
It annoyed me on the FL highlights because they were saying Callum Connolly only scored twice for Blackpool last season, but he scored already. I was like, well, what do you expect? Like 20 goals a season from a
right back come centre back? Yeah.
That's what he said.
No, from a right back comes centre defensive midder, from a centre midfielder to a centre back. Like, he played in every position he could last season to help the team out. So you wouldn't expect loads of goals from him.
But Sean just said Critch did have the idea of Connolly being the player to arrive in the box at the right time. He does have a habit of doing that and scoring.
He does. I think of probably he's in. If you're in that position, the box, he's one of 3 or 4 players I'd want to be on the ball in the box in that scenario. Yates probably being another, and I'm trying to think now who else. Maybe Keshi as well. And maybe Carey, because, you know, there's a few others who would struggle to hit the proverbial barn door from that position, wouldn't they? And he reminds me almost of like it's not quite as good as him, but almost like a Marco van Basten style finish, the way he lashed it across from the side and hit the roof of the net at the far post. Absolutely superb.
He scored from memory, didn't he score the goal against Middlesbrough in the EFL Cup last year as well? This bit screamer from the edge of the box.
Yeah, I think the free kick was when we played Birmingham? We won.
Yeah,
6-1, whatever it was. Yeah, so that was a fantastic. But he does have an eye for goal, doesn't he? And, and if he ever gets to play in his preferred position and where we think his preferred position is now, I think he'll chip in with a few goals over the season.
Yeah. Enough. You can't really say enough plaudits about him. Really, he's great in whatever position you seem to put him in.
Yeah, if any Premier League clubs would like to buy him so we could buy a proper right back, please do get in touch.
Matthew Warren has just said the atmosphere on Saturday was wired. I think he means weird. No one wanted to chant. Me and Tom trying to get the atmosphere going. I was actually sat in the northwest for this game because I was with my family. We wanted to sit together. Is that true, Tom? I've heard it louder. I have heard it louder.
Yeah, naturally, it was relative. I think because of the timing of the season and people's holidays, etc. I think it just felt a bit more emptier than maybe fans expect. I'm not sure.
Crap support from Reading didn't help.
But I don't know. Like, just wasn't.
Do you not think part of it is down to the fact that
maybe it just wasn't as.
I thought the first half the atmosphere was okay, but we're attacking the opposite end, and the area that tends to generate most of the atmosphere is obviously the north. So we're always going to be slightly louder in the second half. But the problem is in the second half, apart from the first 5 or 10 minutes, we were, as we're going to go on to discuss, we were on the back foot, weren't we? And I think that naturally muted the atmosphere.
Yeah, it did. Let's talk Tom Ince. Obviously came in for a lot of flack during the first half, particularly because that's where the end he was taking corners, was in the north, and he went on a surging run at one point, and I was thinking, oh God, he's going to score. I think sometimes it's a bit of a folly to give away teams, players, a load of shit because they really want to ram it down your throats. But thankfully he didn't. Was anyone impressed with him at all?
No, I think other than that, he was a bit basic. When that actually came from a Fiorini being tracked down by him and lost possession. I think he was trying to find some space, and he got actually pushed down. And they caught us on the counter. So it was one of those times we did lose the ball, and we were quite back, I think.
Fiorini, Tim, was very impressive in the first half. I thought he faded a bit in the second, but he added that much, a touch of class to the central midfield. I think we've been lacking last season.
And he was playing very, very deep, but very effectively, wasn't he? And he was almost playing the equivalent of the American football quarterback role, where he was sitting deep and pinging balls to Bowler, out to Yates and whatever. And the first, he was just that first 30 minutes, he was just by far and away the best footballer on the pitch and dictating the pace of the game. It's just a pity he didn't have the right midfield partner alongside him who would make sure he got the ball every opportunity.
Whoever are you talking about, Tim?
I can't comment.
Connor, we've gone in 1-0 at half time. How do you think we performed generally in the first half? Were you happy with what you saw?
Yeah, I think broadly happy with what I saw in that first half. Very attractive, free-flowing passing football. Like I said, Fiorini, brilliant, kind of acting like a Scottish Pirlo with his kind of long diagonal balls. I think as Tom said, he got muscled off, and I think in the comments it said as well, he got muscled off a few times by Tom Ince, and I'm a bit worried if your defensive midfielder is getting muscled off by Tom Ince. But, I'm sure Appleton will work on that with him. Maybe we'll see Dougal there next game and Fiorini high up the pitch. We'll have to see. The only other thing that really concerned me, because he gave it away a couple of times in the first half, and then maybe once or twice more in the second half, was Marvin Ekpiteta looked uncomfortable on the ball. He was still brilliant defensively. He made a couple of really important contributions and challenges and blocks, but passing out from the back didn't seem to really suit his game. He gave it away cheaply a couple of times in dangerous areas. And all I can think was, I'm glad, we've got a Reece Williams or we've got a Richard Keogh to play us beside him, because, they just offer that on-the-ball quality that I don't think Ekpiteta's built into his game yet. So I just think that was an adjustment Ekpiteta is still making to how Appleton wants us to build play. Appleton isn't just kind of hoofing it to Medine at the first side it goes wrong. And I think Ekpiteta's still coming to terms with that, learning that system, learning how to cope with that. And, I'm sure he will do it because he's a fantastic player. It's just a bit of narrative to watch.
Tom, as the chairman of the International Marvin Ekpiteta fan club, how do you react to that?
Yeah, I watched the game again back today. Might have been a bit hazy due to the Guinness that I was drinking on Saturday, but I watched it back today, and I think 3 or 4 times defensively fine, and I thought he played a few decent passes, but at the same time he didn't look too comfortable. But I think his first game back after being ill, I know he played at 5, that been not very testing for him, but I think he'll come good. I just don't think he's got the right protection in midfield off being on that. I think, just to surmise that first half, I think we were very comfortable. Maybe could have attacked, a little bit more with Vindiction, but at the same time, that when we did get caught or where they had the odd counter, we did look vulnerable. And I think Virtue offers very little to that midfield because he's not a very structured player. So Fiorini, who's a natural 8, played in the 6, and then it left sort of Virtue and Carey not to do too much to control the game, and they therefore left a lot of space in that midfield, and that's where he got caught a couple of times as well. So 4x5 is our most creative and best player, but also was left vulnerable because of the protection around him.
Tim, I could see you chuckling. I think it's at the same comment that I've just read, which is this one from Marcus. I'd feel Todd tentative playing next to a knobber. I feel for him.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out with me with Williams, to be honest.
I thought Williams did really well.
I just think the positive is clearly Klopp sees the player in him, and I think he's still not wanting. Now, whether this is a legacy of the shit he took when he first signed, because of course he reacted to it as well, didn't he? And maybe he doesn't want to make a mistake that could sort of tarnish his reputation with Blackpool fans. But he looks like he's playing within himself to me. He looks like he's nervous, and I hope that he's going to play a slightly more positive game. I don't think he played a bad game. He just looks like he's playing within himself, and I think it's going to be a difficult decision for Appleton when Keogh's fixed. I think my gut reaction is Keogh and Marv give us the best pairing, but as we know, it's a long season and there'll be players will get injured, and particularly Keogh will need games to rest. As you know, he's no spring chicken, so he won't be able to play 40 odd games for us. 25, 30 will probably be about right. So Williams will get his game, but every game I've watched him, I just think you can see he's a player, but I just don't think he's shown his confidence yet in the same way that he might do if he'd been here for. Hopefully, when he's played 10 games, 15 games, I'm sure. Hopefully, it'll come.
I thought if you.
That's the Virtue thing. I just think it's a case of getting the right players in the right position. I know I keep banging the drum for Dougal, but you know where Dougal will be when they get the ball. And it will always be defensive side of the ball where Virtue won't necessarily be there. And if we don't really want our attacking players playing quite as deep as they were playing on as Fury. I can't actually get his name.
Lewis Capaldi. Call him Lewis Capaldi.
Lewis Capaldi was on Saturday, where he was the last man effectively. He was the peg of the three midfield, where for me you want a really defensive midfielder in there and let your attacking players push a little bit forward. He did well in that first 20 minutes, but maybe I didn't analyse. I've not had a chance to watch the game back, but maybe Inns then realised, closing down quick from the forward positions, and you're going to cut out his opportunity to ping the ball about in the way he was doing it. And I want to see him doing his stuff on the edge of the area, to be honest, rather than our defensive third.
Yeah, he's not who. He's not who Appleton wants there. That's for sure. One thing I will just quickly on Williams, just watching the game back. When we score, there's a camera angle where the ball hits the net, and he does this, and he runs straight over. So I think he settled into the side quite well, and that was quite refreshing to see.
Leon's just said what I was thinking. I don't think he's confident enough without Keogh. Big Marv. Marv on the ball reminded me a bit of when he was playing with Michael Nottingham, if you remember those awful days.
Ooh. The best centre-back partnership we ever had was that.
You said to him, I still remember it, the worst centre-half partnership that we've ever seen. But it was. It was.
I stand by it. I stand by it. They were dreadful together.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something in that. And I think Leanne's right in that. I noticed she can come on here, but she can't come on the show. I don't know what's going on, but just a little dig, Leanne. But I think Marv is a lot better when he's got somebody really good next to him, and I think that brings out the best of him. And I think Keogh brings out the best of him, and hopefully, as Williams improves and establishes himself, he will as well. But him and Nottingham, Jesus Christ, I still have nightmares about it now.
Yeah, the jury's definitely out with me with him anyway. So time will tell, I guess. Back to the game then. Connor, big chance on 52 minutes. Junior Highlight slid one in at the back post and shot thankfully saved by Grimmy. And following that, 8 minutes later, Big Gaz rising like a salmon at the back post, and the North was holding its breath, expecting it to go back where it's come from and nestle in the top corner or the far corner anyway. And it was a bit powder puff, wasn't it? And I was expecting a bit more from Medine there.
Yeah, headed chances like that are always difficult. I'm sure Medine's time will come. He's just getting all his bad finishing out now. That kind of those two snatches on the line against Everton also spring to mind.
If me and Mitch had been sat together, that'd have been in the back of the net. Just putting that out there.
Sure, whatever you say, John. I thought Junior Hoilett was actually Reading's best player. You had Tom Ince on the right doing Tom Ince stuff and being very average, and then behind him, further down the pitch, somehow not being given the same freedom, but doing a lot more with whatever freedom he had, was Junior Hoilett, who I thought created most of Reading's best chances, including the one you just referenced. And for me, that's a concern because that Reading right-hand side was where a lot of their big threats came from. And that's theoretically where you've got Jerry Yates working hard, probably a fair bit harder than Josh Bowler, again, based on my two perceptions of the players, as well as Matty Virtue there as well. And I kind of worried how exposed we seemed down that left flank and how much space there was at times, which again, I was kind of hoping the one thing you get from Jerry as a winger is kind of defensive solidity because of just how hard he works. And I don't think we really saw that. So for me, the Junior Hoilett was Reading's best player. And for me, that's another maybe X in the Jerry Yates winger experiment. Another sign that maybe that hasn't panned out quite the way Appleton would have wanted.
Don't you think as well, though, in a 4-3-3, you're going to... It's a little bit like in the Premier League. You're putting a lot of pressure sometimes on your fullbacks, aren't you? Because if you've got an opposition who's loading the midfield, which Reading seemed to do, particularly as the game went on, then you're gonna. I think you create issues, particularly if your wide men in the three don't really drop in goal side of the play when you've lost possession. And I think the problem is when we've got Bowler and Jerry, who are both very, very attacking. I'm not sure that it necessarily works. I did actually, in some respects, quite like Jerry out there, but I always think a 4-3-3 personally really exposes you to the risk of being doubled up on the overlap. And good job we had a decent left back in, who we haven't mentioned yet.
Dom Thompson. Yeah, brilliant. What a debut.
Superb debut. And I liked his attitude. He seemed to be very, very quick over about 3 or 4 yards when he needed to be to sniff out some danger. Very tenacious in the tackle, didn't hold back at all, just got right stuck in there.
I think he was a proper left back, Tim, wasn't he? A proper defensive mid.
Yeah, and you get, hopefully, if we get to the point where we've got Gabriel on the one side and him on the other, that we. I don't remember seeing him go forward in as much as I thought we were going to see him go forward. But I thought his defensive game I thought he is probably the most tenacious we've seen. Most certainly, I mean, you don't get tenacious and Garbett aren't two words that go together, are they? He's head and shoulders above Garbett at the moment. So
I'm a traditionalist with defenders. I like their main attribute to be good at defending, and anything else is kind of a bonus after that. And
I think,
he certainly fits that mould.
I don't know what we've paid for him, and obviously, normally when they don't say anything, it's because they're not paid very much. Generally, isn't it? I tend to find, but I think he's quite an astute acquisition, to be fair. And as much as I was critical before about the fact that I think we've been had the blindfold on and chucking darts at the board, we've hit, if not the bullseye, at least double top with him, I think. And
about the 25, Tim, outer ball.
Outer ball, maybe. But I generally think we've got signed a player there, and I love the way he seemed to really get. And he hasn't seen it the best yet, the North, and he came over at the end, and he seemed quite emotional about it. And
as long as he didn't do that.
Yeah, we don't want any of that.
And he tweeted at the fans afterwards, specifically referencing the support, etc. I still think it made a great impact. John, can you bring up Sean's comment in the comment section? Because I think actually, Tim, your comment around how we never really saw him get forward is, I think, also linked to your comment around why we play a 4-3-3. So kind of, I think what he's asking the fullbacks to do is come narrow, as Sean says. You've kind of got your 5 attacking players pushing up and doing neat little combinations in the wing, and that's probably a mixture of Yates, Virtue, Medine, Kerry, and Bowler, and then he's just asking Thompson and Connolly to kind of almost join Fiorini a little bit deeper, creating kind of a midfield free almost that can just anytime any indication of a counter attack, any loose possession, they can kind of charge in and try and stop it at source. I don't think it really worked because, as we saw, there was loads of space on Reading's right, down our left. But I think Sean's absolutely right that he's not asking the fullbacks to attack in any kind of traditional sense. He's doing the very kind of like elite manager thing of asking the fullbacks to tuck in a little bit in the midfield, and if anything goes wrong, they can be like the free safety or the kind of hit button in case of emergency, stopping counterattacks.
Which is that almost like the antithesis of the Holloway version, which involved the fullbacks steaming forward along with everybody else, isn't it? So.
Absolutely.
Sean's reply to that for the benefit of the audio pod is, yes, I knew I could spark a 10-minute kind of tactical discussion with that. Right, it's not the Sean McGinley show, this. Let's move on. Matty Virtue subbed Tim on 65 minutes for your boy, Kenny Dougal. What do you think was the thinking in Appy's mindset there? And did Matty Virtue do much in the game? Because I saw a few people saying he didn't do much.
Yeah, well, obviously, other than he was actively involved in the goal, to be fair, and it was a great cross. And listen, I don't actually mind him, but I don't want him. I don't think you play him ahead of a player who's actually going to break. He's going to break up play properly.
Yes, it's not Virtue's game, is it? That role.
No, he's more attacking and driving forward.
I thought we played Virtue in the relative.
It took our most creative player, in some respects, out of the most effective part of where he could play his game, because he was having to do that. He ended up doing that role more than Virtue did. So listen, I'm not. It's not an anti-Virtue thing. I just think Dougal is. If you're going to play 4-3-3, I just think Dougal is a better player in that system, as Connolly would be as well.
Dennis, just let's rewind a minute. I forgot about this, Dennis. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. What about the great bowler run that hit the post? Yeah, Dennis. Thanks for pointing that out. It was fantastic bit of skill on the foray on the right hand side, cutting, beat 2 or 3 players. It was a thing of beauty. Curled it in, it's hit the post and just come back at that unfortunate angle where it's not gone in. Come back to Bowen, who was a bit off balance, I think, Tom, wasn't he, to get anything meaningful on the rebound?
Yeah, definitely most creative outlet, especially in that second half when we got the odd counter attack. But if I'm being hypercritical, he's got to finish it. But at the same time, he's very unlucky with. If you look at the position, in my opinion, he should score. But
how many other players can get in that position to get that shot
yeah,
away? Tom?
But as I was literally about to say, so took the words right out of my mouth. He's made that chance out of nothing on the wing. So that's where Bowler is for me. He sorry, mate. Sorry.
I was going to say I think he was slightly off balance because he's ridden through three.
Yeah,
and I think he was leaning back a bit, and like John said, I was right behind it. It was a thing of beauty. It's what you
pay your money for.
We've just got to take things like whether he will be gone in this transfer window, whether he'll stay, I don't know. But when you see somebody do that in a Blackpool shirt, it's just fantastic. It was so unlucky not to go in. But I do think he was off balance. I think he hadn't quite got his balance back, and he'd done everything right. To be honest, he'd done everything right. And 9 times out of 10, it'd have gone in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think if he goes, we're in trouble because Keshi's now out. Carey, where he sits in a 4-3-3, who's very creative but better in a 4-2-3-1, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know, because he was even better for me, like at the start against Red. I know the opposition isn't as good as what we'll play, but he was just even more exciting in a sense of the way he glided through players. Maybe I just missed it, I don't know, but he was sensational on Saturday, and he passed the ball a lot more, I think, as Leanne's pointed out, in positions where you think he'd potentially try and do the odd thing. What he did is try to take on 6 or 7 players. He did go knock it out to the wing for a cross or something like that, which happened a lot more, which, yeah, I think it'd be devastating if he left.
I think his overall work rate was noticeable as well. Tracking back, actually tackling. So
he was at right wing back at some point early in the first half, and actually I think it was the 13th minute, catch it back. He actually executed an offside trap and got a Reading player called offside. And I was like, is this Josh Bowler like in that position doing smart defending? It was really great to see.
Yeah. But he was brilliant. He's a fantastic player to watch, and I really hope we do keep. And as I think as Tom just said there, devastating would be the word if he did leave, and unless there's
it's horrible, isn't it? Because if he doesn't go, he goes for free, and if he stays, obviously we get the creativity of him. But if he goes, we get potentially 3 or 4 million and to invest. So it's one of those ones. Unless we can convince him to sign a year or 2 year contract with a contract clause. I hate to say those 2 words together at the moment, but hopefully someone could trigger it at 5 or 6 million, for example, when we get the best of both worlds. But we'll see.
Give him an Mbappe style contract where he can sign all the players he wants. Like, see it. We solved the Ben Mansford problem, and we solved the Josh Bowler problem.
Yeah. What's this, Connor? What? What's this?
To keep the PSG, in order to keep Kylian Mbappe, put into his contract that he would have significant input on all transfer decisions.
Seriously, he has the ability to tell the club who he thinks they should sign and be involved with the talk around the round table, so to speak. Genuinely.
And he can take his ball home if he doesn't agree with the transfer policies. Turn the lights off, the floodlights. Yeah, I'm game. Tim, you're looking a bit bemused there. And silence. Hang on a sec.
Suspend Leanne for a comment about Dougal, because clearly we're going to fall out big style if she comes on one of these pods.
She hates Dougal.
Dougal isn't the best player ever.
Did you say that, Tim? Did you say Dougal is the best player ever?
No, I didn't say he was the best player ever.
No.
But she's saying he isn't the better player.
No. Tim was saying there's better to play Dougal than Virtue, and so she's responded with Dougal isn't the better player ever. But she has no clue about Dougal, so that's just awesome.
I always say
there's going to be some fireworks.
Anybody who doesn't understand what he brings to the team needs to
has
go
no place on this podcast. Is that what you're going to say?
No, well, I'm beginning to. I might black baller at this point.
And he's got the best song, so I discussed this earlier with Leanne. He has the best song, so.
I do like the concept of being blackballed. It's the Masons thing, isn't it? Where if every member they get a bag of balls, don't they? If we want to bring a new member in, everyone has a vote. Is it White,
One
if you
black
want
ball,
them in,
you're out.
if one black ball from any member, out you go. Or you don't.
Or when they never get in, never mind, out you go.
Oh, have we lost John?
Have we?
Oh, he's
No, he's
now.
back.
No, we haven't. Right then, as the game
Sounds like you're on-
I think we kind of just saw the game out. I think it was an accurate description, but it was a weird situation to see. Was it 5 substitutions in total?
Yeah, it's back. I think that rule is brilliant, but it also lures you into the fact that you could change things too early or bring too much on to change the game. So I think that will come with time again, learning that. But it's definitely better to have 5 subs than 3, in my personal opinion, because it just gives you a lot more options, doesn't it?
And I'm going to hate myself saying this, but I actually think we looked a little bit more defensively solid once CJ came onto the pitch. I don't know if it was just his height, but
He headed the ball, Connor. He
was able to head the ball and like just stop the ball being in dangerous areas and get it out a little bit. Like on possession, I still think he was useless, but out of possession, like his height offered a little bit. Got to a couple of clearances.
Just scares people with his pace. He just knows they're going to be caught, so he's giving the ball. Yeah.
Was
Does he
anyone
scare
worried?
people with his pace anymore, though? I think he did in League One.
Yeah.
I think if he's chasing you, I mean, not when he's on the ball. If he's on the ball, he's already passed it to the corner flag. So.
Okay, let's move on to man of the match then. Lewis Fiorini was man of the match. I didn't agree with that. I thought it should have been Dom Thompson, personally. I thought Fiorini was very good in the first half, but faded quite badly in the second half. Gave the ball away quite a lot.
Nah, Fiorini was man of the match for me. I thought he was incredibly impressive and pretty much key to all the way we tried to build up on the ball.
I just think he ran out of steam after 16 minutes, but I don't know where. I would not having watched the game back. I suspect that Ince did a bit of a job on him and just closed him down a bit, and maybe they realised this. They probably focused on trying to stop him playing, but
I think everyone looked knackered after 60 minutes. I don't think that was
Thompson got cramp as well. That's why he was down for a
while. Callum Connolly was obviously scored the goal, but his just overall game was he's got to be right up there as well. It was a brilliant performance.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
Tom, who do you think then?
As debuts go, then for me, I think Thompson was quite vital at the back line, and he got forward and he put in some good challenges, and he covered Williams in the first half, who got beaten, an absolute corker for pace, and he just came across, as Tim said, he used his 3 or 4 yards of pace to clear the ball. I think for someone that hasn't played for a while and he's come straight in, for me, he probably gets pipped. He probably pips man of the match for me as well. But there were some good solid performances, but we've got to remember the opposition we were playing, and I think in other games, I know his first game of the season, but I think it's going to take a while for this potentially I think there'll be some bumpy roads coming up, but we'll have to see how the team copes with different opposition.
Okay, just 1 hour and 10, so we'll just close off now. Any closing thoughts on the game itself? And I think Sean mentioned this game as a free hit, so I think they were very poor, Reading. I found it a bit worrying that they were camped in our half, like the more or less last half hour, and I think a better team would have dispatched us reasonably comfortably. So I'm not taking much from this victory, and I don't think we've learned a great deal either.
I think a slightly more physical team would completely just overrun Virtue, Fiorini, and Carey, because they're all brilliantly technical players, but can all get missiled off the ball quite easily. And I think a side that just presses, like Reading were doing in the second half, like the side that just has a bit of a well put together press, I think will put Fiorini and Ekpiteta under pressure and create quite a few chances from that. I'm happy that we got the 3 points, but I still have significant doubts over what this squad can do and how this squad will fare in the Championship. I still think it's going to be a long season where, we'll probably stay up, but it won't be comfortable.
Closing thoughts?
I just think that 4-3-3, just really developing what Connor was saying, I think we're going to have to learn to play 2 defensive midfielders in that 3 for certain games. Otherwise, we are going to get battered. And we need Stewart to be involved. We need Connolly in there. And despite Leanne's protestations, we need Dougal in there.
Saw Kevin Stewart yesterday, by the way, at KFC Filed, training a bunch of what look like toddlers or young children. Didn't look very injured to me.
Training to be what? Footballers or real estate brokers?
He did have a huge set of Lego and Duplo bricks on the pitch with a few bags of pennies. No, I'm joking. Yeah, he was actually there. But anyway, so we'll be coming back hopefully on a preview show for the Stoke games. Stoke on Saturday. Thanks ever so much for the panel for joining us. Thank you for watching and your contributions. All your views and listens out there makes the show better. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the video. Hit the notification bell. That helps you get notified whenever we do release new content, so it's worth doing. I know you hear it on all YouTube videos, and it's right pain in the arse, but that's why. And all right, to be said is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, and up the
Boom.
Ollie's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
All right, John's gone. Doesn't hang around.
No.
All right.